Hey yo, welcome back fellow mobsters. Today we have a video by how to survive. Videos that'll survive in Rikers Island, America's most violent jail. Now keep in mind, I didn't even know this place existed till now, honestly. I have no idea. Like, no idea about system, whatever, Not even in which state, whatever. Island, whatever. Anyway, here we go.
This video contains discussions of abuse, suicide, and violence, which may be distressing for some viewers.
Dang.
Please take care while watching, and feel free to step away if you need to.
Dang. Just disclaimer.
The nicknames that it has: the Bridge of Pain, Gladiator School, Torture Island. The name speaks for itself.
Torture
What are
Island?
some words you'd use to describe Rikers Island?
Hell. I had to go in there and be the most violent so I can be able to survive.
In this video, we see him being escorted to the prison shower. He appears to speak to the guard, who in seconds is seen slamming him into a wall and then to the ground.
Welcome to Rikers Island in New York City, a place
Oh,
where
hold on.
detainees
New
await
York
their
City.
trials. Although it's technically a jail, inmates often spend more than a few days here. Some spend weeks, others years. And those who get out alive are considered lucky. From overpopulation, understaffing, gang violence, and fight clubs to rampant corruption and neglect, Rikers Island will change anyone who crosses its bridge of pain. Why have so many inmates died behind bars at Rikers? What is the program, and why are so many guards giving inmates special treatment?
Basically, it's this like power structure on Rikers Island that had people that fight for these positions to be good. To not worry about somebody taking their stuff, but not worry about somebody attacking them.
And will Rikers Island close for good in 2027? Think you have what it takes to survive in a hellhole like this? Let's find out.
Hold on.
On Rikers Island that had people that fight for these positions to be good. To not worry about somebody taking their stuff, but not worry about somebody
Okay.
attacking them.
And will
You said
Rikers
it will
Island close
close?
for good in 2027? Think you have what it
2027,
takes
so
to
it is
survive in a
still
hellhole like this?
functioning
Let's
today.
find out.
Well, this makes it worse than Atlanta. Atlanta's jail that was on.
Shit! After getting picked
Tommy
up
G's
and
video.
handcuffed, you're brought onto a bus with other detainees. You cross the Bridge of Pain, and you're escorted to your new home for the foreseeable future.
You walk in and the first thing that hits you is the smell. It's a very odd smell of like, I didn't know what I was smelling, but people would say that's just blood and just chemicals that they clean the blood with.
First, you wait to be processed and are held in the intake units, which can sometimes be crammed with dozens of detainees. And although you're only supposed to be there for 24 hours at most, you may spend days inside a crammed holding cell with a bed made of cardboard and an overflowing toilet. Consider yourself lucky, because in 2021, detainees had to use plastic bags for toilets while waiting to be sent to their cells.
Feces all over the wall, unoperable restrooms, toilets would not flush, the sinks would not work. It was disgusting.
Your cell isn't much better. It has an iron toilet, a rock-hard bed, and no heat, which means freezing temperatures during the winter.
Quick pause. I'm not even gonna yap about this, cause it's obvious. And why? No wonder why New Yorkers did actually vote for Mamdani. No wonder. This is the jail. Police departments, most of them are corrupted. Chaos. Subway stations and trains and I'm not even gonna comment on that. No
which
wonder.
means freezing temperatures
No
during
wonder.
the winter. But you'd better get cozy because there's no guarantee you'll even get an hour of recreation time outside of your new home. We spoke with Bryce Peterson. He's a CNA research scientist who leads major projects to help improve policing and correctional systems, focusing on safety, technology, and support for families affected by incarceration. We got his take on the systemic issues jails like Rikers Island are facing.
Rikers is a unique jail in so many ways. It more resembles a prison system than a jail system. It's run by a city, which is one of the few jail systems operated at a city level, not a county level, has its own Department of Corrections that operates it. It's just a geographically challenging, dilapidated buildings. There's a lot of challenges with Rikers Island.
You can't do nothing. It's the same shit all day, every day, day in, day out. Rikers Island, you're stuck in the house all day, bro.
But fights, stabbings, or staff shortages can cancel your fun time without warning.
NBC News recently obtained more than 100 hours of surveillance
shit.
video from inside Rikers. Scenes like this, an attempted knifing averted by an officer, and an inmate-organized so-called fight night, where some detainees were forced to participate.
Lunchtime is mandatory. You're either lining up at a mess hall or you're eating off a plastic tray handed to you through a slot in your cell. The food isn't much, mainly frozen processed foods like pizza pockets and burritos. Chicken Day is by far the most popular and territorial. You better build some strong allies to avoid getting jumped for your drumstick here. And the guards are not a fan of the milk cartons.
And as the officers serve lunch, through a cell opening, a milk carton. The carton becomes a projectile, a giant spray of urine and feces.
I'm supposed to feed a guy that's throwing stuff out of the cell at me.
Yuck.
I'm supposed to feed him, you know, but gotta still remain professional and do a job.
Showers, the non-milk carton kind, are available every day in theory, but in practice, you may have to wait. Guards can cut shower time short as punishment for those who misbehave. The caged versions have even been used as temporary holding cells in the past. Violence is always close by. You hear about slashings with homemade blades, see the aftermath of beatdowns in the hall, or watch officers rushing to pull men apart. The official rules are supposed to keep you safe.
Come on.
But the reality is different. At any moment, a
Is
fight
there
can break
someone
out
who's
and
actually
cost you
following
your
the rules
life.
now today in this country?
If you want to survive here, keep your head down, avoid eye contact, and figure out quickly which crews run your unit.
I started slowly learning that if I want to live and survive here, then I really got to lose a piece of myself that I try to hold on, right? The human side of myself.
It's a fine line to walk. You don't want to be known for fighting, but you can't let other inmates see you as a target. At the same time, you don't want to gain a reputation for being problematic for the guards. Keeping a low profile, being respectful, and even bribing them can go a long way.
A few days later, I let the Colombian guy know that I had another officer that was willing to do the same job that I was doing. So after a few runs and introducing the other officer, I start bringing in contraband more frequently.
You'll also want to keep an eye out for gangs. In 2022, a report led by a former detainee highlighted how a leader of the Dominican gang, Trinitarios, virtually ran an entire cell block. In addition to having designer shoes, bins of food, and clothes in his cell, the leader, referred to as Bacalao, made it clear he was in charge, not the staff.
Who was running the place?
The inmates run the facilities.
An inmate named Relator G explained how he was jumped after being placed in his housing unit. The attack only stopped when Bacalao told the individuals involved to stop. The gang leader then explained the rules of the cell block, referred to it as his house, which included attacking new people as they arrived. Huh, what a cheery welcome. Other gangs at Rikers have taken things even further. In February 2025, a member of the Bloods made headlines for his vicious attacks on staff. Over 2 years, Sundance Oliver was responsible for attacking 45 correctional officers and 3 civilians. At the time, a law implemented in 2024, limiting an inmate's time in solitary to just a few hours per day, made it hard to keep guys like Oliver locked down. However, those laws have since been overturned, to the officer's relief.
Whoever thought getting rid of solitary confinement was a good idea You need to pack your stuff up and you need to go.
If you've managed to make it through the day, well done. At night, when the lock-in happens, the noise doesn't stop. Men shout, bang on doors, or scream threats. Here, sleep is a rare luxury.
My first night in jail, when that door closed,
Low-key though, if you think about it, jails are worse. Not from aspect of the danger, but from like the aspect of system, you know? There's no system, they're not organized, they're not, you know what I mean? They're hard to keep organized. Jails are hard to keep organized. It's not like prison when you compare those two, you know? Prison, it's like everybody knows their sentence, they're good with it, you know what I mean? And there's just a bunch of gangs, you know, doing their thing, you know what I mean? But jails, you got someone who they know that they're gonna be there for a few nights, and someone who they know they're gonna be there for at least a year, you know, and someone who just came in, and someone who has spent already a year there, you know what I mean? It's like a mix of different energies, you know what I mean? You can't match, like, someone who's been there a year is not gonna match the energy of someone who just got in. You know what I mean? That's why it's more chaotic. That's what I want to say. It's more chaotic.
cried hysterically.
Try to get as much shut-eye as you can. Trust me, you'll need it. But it might be easier said than done, considering Rikers' dark and haunted past. Before becoming America's most notorious jail complex, Rikers Island was farmland owned by the wealthy Dutch Rijken family. The city originally bought it in 1884 to be used as a dump. Fitting. After relying on forced labor by inmates from other NYC jails to build it, Rikers Island opened in 1932. Within its first decade, watchdogs had branded it inhumane.
Come on.
From the 1950s through the 70s,
I don't like the
Rikers
comment that
exploded
he
in
did.
size
Refer to humans
and
as
violence. Overcrowding, hunger strikes, and riots became routine.
Not an animal, you know, the way they make you feel like you're an animal, the way they throw your things around, you know.
It was even immortalized in Marvel Comics as a prison for supervillains. By the 80s and 90s, the chaos only escalated. Suicides among youth soared.
It was my birthday in June, and I had nobody to be with. I took this here, my wrist.
So you tried to commit suicide?
Exactly, and I've been shot too.
Gangs ruled cell blocks, and guards themselves rioted in protest. At its peak, more than 20,000 people were crammed inside, making it the largest jail in the US.
Unless you've been inside of a prison or jail, it's really hard to talk about the scope of overcrowding. I mean, like we talk about crowded situations, like if you go to a mall or something like that. Inside of a prison, you're talking about sometimes 8 people inside of a 4x8 cell, right? So you have multiple bunks in a room where you can touch the walls on both sides. So it's just a very different situation than what you're used to. And that's their living quarters that they're often confined in for hours and hours every single day. And then when they're out of their cells, they're also in situations where you're shoulder to shoulder with people while you're trying to exercise. You're directly next to people on either side of you while you're trying to have a phone call with a loved one, a family member, things like that. They're on top of each other in some of the most difficult living situations that any of us could imagine.
By the 2000s, Rikers was in the spotlight regularly for all the wrong reasons.
At that time in 2007, there was so many youth. I had to go in there and be the most violent so I can be able to survive.
And it wasn't only violent inmates causing problems. Jail staff and correctional officers were being exposed for their criminal ways too. From stolen artwork and smuggled drugs to officers forcing themselves onto incarcerated women, the staff had a lot of issues. Officers were accused of turning a blind eye to fight clubs and even encouraging inmates to attack each other. Investigations revealed the use of excessive force, a lot of it.
One of the more established findings is really crowded facilities are more prone to violence, right? Not surprisingly, we have people on top of each other. They create these conditions where there's lots of tension, strain, you have staff involved. It just creates, it's a breeding system for violence.
I think
both
corrupted
against staff
staff,
and against each other.
corrupt staff.
If it's way too crowded, it's really hard for staff to
always
manage
the
that
worst.
population effectively, which means people get away with more things, right? Staff aren't going to do as good of a job of searching them when they need to. They're not going to do as good a job searching cells, screening stuff that's coming in, monitoring their phone calls, monitoring visitation. Staff get away with more things because, again, there's less oversight. When there's fewer staff per inmates in the facility, we call it staff to inmate ratio. When that's lower, there's less oversight for staff too. So if staff want to get away with things like staff bringing in contraband, those kinds of things. So it leads to a whole host of issues.
With a lack of training, medical support, and inhumane living conditions, Rikers Island continues to be a problem for both inmates and jail staff. Sadly, many inmates with pre-existing mental health conditions have not been given the care they deserve. They have been victims of abuse and sad reminders of a corrupt system that has historically targeted minorities and ignored basic human rights.
When you have, again, such a large prison population, it's a drain on your resources, and then people aren't getting the services they need. So then it's this like self-perpetuating cycle where people don't get the services they need. They're released, they're inadequately prepared for release, they return to prison.
This is not so going today.
In this video, we see him being escorted to the prison shower. He appears to speak to the guard, who in seconds is seen slamming him into a wall and then to the ground.
In 2010, Khalif Browder was just 16 years old when he was arrested for stealing a backpack. He couldn't afford bail, so he was placed on Rikers Island, awaiting trial. While maintaining his innocence throughout his time there, Browder was offered plea deals, which he refused.
The judge told me that if I plead guilty, I would release from jail that same day. But I didn't do it. You're not gonna make me say I did something just so I could go home.
In 2013, Browder was released with all the charges dropped, but the damage was irreversible. He had spent over 1,100 days in jail, the majority in solitary confinement, and claimed both guards and inmates regularly beat him.
3 years or
risks
something
of
like
solitary
that.
confinement for individuals range from a number of psychological issues, right, like increased issues with mental health, depression, anxiety, suicide risks, suicide ideation. There's some physical issues associated with it as well, because oftentimes you don't get access to exercise, and so you can have sleep deprivation, atrophy, other things like that. You can have social issues, like you're not interacting with people on a daily basis, so it can, especially for adolescents, can interrupt their kind of social development.
What did Rikers do to your son?
It destroyed him. It destroyed him mentally.
In 2015, at 22 years old, Browder took his own life. Calls for Rikers to close down were reignited.
Shut it down!
Lawsuits were created and policies were changed. But the ultimate goal was to close Rikers once and for all. Unfortunately, it remained open, and the mistreatment of inmates continued.
A transgender woman's death on Rikers Island is leading to calls for an investigation and a rally today in her name.
In April 2019, 27-year-old Layleen Extravaganza Polanco was arrested on an assault charge for allegedly biting a cab driver. She was taken to Rikers Island and was meant to be released a few days later, but remained in jail due to prior drug and prostitution charges from 2017. She couldn't afford...
Hold on. Before I go any deeper to the story, before I build any connection, human connection to this story, she did what now? She bit a cab driver in the ear. I'm not saying it's funny, but it is funny. There we go.
She couldn't afford her $500 bail. While being processed, Polanco told authorities about her epilepsy and history of seizures. On May 15th, she was taken to a psychiatric ward after what was described as radical changes in behavior, such as hallucinations, shouting, and suicidal thoughts. Despite her psychiatrist's recommendation, just 9 days later, Layleen was placed in solitary confinement for 20 days. On day 9 of 20, she was found dead in her cell due to a seizure that went unchecked. Even though regulations require officers to check on inmates in solitary confinement every 15 minutes, there was a 47-minute gap between checks on Polanco. At 2:46 in the afternoon, when officers finally did check on her, she was unresponsive. Video footage shows one of the officers laughing while another calls out to her. After failed attempts to revive her, a bodyboard was brought in at 2:56.
You're not laughing now, huh?
The city of New York eventually paid $5.9 million to her family in a wrongful death lawsuit, but no amount of money can make up for the neglect Polanco faced. Between January 1st and November 30th, 2013, there were 129 cases in which inmates needed medical attention so extensive that the jail's doctors couldn't provide adequate treatment. All of those cases involved correctional officers, and 77% of the cases involved inmates who were deemed mentally ill.
We know that in general, the correctional population, especially in the United States, but this is true across the world as well, correctional populations have disproportionately high levels of people with mental health issues and other kinds of health issues.
Fractured bones, wounds requiring stitches, it was clear that the officers were using excessive force. The majority of inmates claimed to have been beaten by officers after being handcuffed, leaving them
No
defenseless.
wonder why Tommy G didn't
These assaults
wasn't
also
allowed
resulted in
in
5
Rikers
inmates
Island.
attempting to take their own lives.
And will never be.
One example is Jose Batista, who was arrested following a family dispute. After not being able to post a $250 bail, he was sent to Rikers, where he tried to hang himself. 4 officers cut him down and then beat him senseless.
Investigators from 4 city agencies concluded that one of the officers punched Mr. Batista so severely he suffered a perforated bowel and needed emergency surgery to save his life.
In a place as unstable as Rikers Island, where the mental illnesses being dealt with include bipolar disorder, depression, and schizophrenia, inmates have a hard time coping. Some turn inwards. Others are more aggressive, splashing officers with urine or physically assaulting them.
I didn't sign up to be a punching bag. I didn't sign up to be a crash test dummy. You go back to that housing area that that inmate assaulted you in, and you're looking at him eye to eye, and he's looking at you going, I'll do it again.
Violence happens because of a lack of proper structures in place. We don't have adequate staffing, we don't have adequate surveillance systems, we don't have adequate whatever it is, like dilapidated buildings. In truth, violence happens because of all of those things, right? It's a combination of all of that. It's not one thing that explains why violence happens. It's a lack of oversight and not proper structures. It's probably a concentration
it looks scary from the outside.
More violent people, maybe more gang
I don't
members
even
in
want
the
to know how
community,
is it
or
from the
people who are
inside.
more likely to commit violence without adequate controls in place for dealing with those individuals. So maybe you don't have good classification systems, like knowing where to place certain individuals to keep them away from each other when there's violent clashes. You might have staff who are overzealous or don't have proper controls in place to stop them from engaging in uses of force and abuse and other things. It's typically a combination of all of those things. It's the prison environment, it's the people that are in there, and then it's a lack of proper controls in place.
Got 22 stitches in my face, okay? This could have easily been a funeral arrangement today.
But it's important to remember that Rikers Island is supposed to be a place where people are held on a temporary basis.
85% of people who are on Rikers Island are just awaiting trial. Majority of people there are still waiting to be sentenced or maybe even get released.
Sadly, some don't live to see that day. In February 2014, Jerome Murdo, a former Marine who suffered from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, was found dead in his cell, surrounded by a pool of blood and vomit. With an internal body temperature of 103 degrees, it was determined he was baked to death, as one article put it. His death was ruled accidental, as the guard who was responsible for checking on him had left her post. But given Rikers' history, a lot of people questioned if this was simply neglect. There was another incident involving an inmate with schizophrenia who swallowed toxic detergent. Despite cries for medical attention for hours, he was ignored and died. One officer was charged with human rights violations. In 2019, violence between inmates
Should have
had
been
increased
shot for murder.
15% in just 1 year. Assaults on staff members significantly worsened too.
It was dangerous for everyone who was in there, for the medical staff, for the correctional officers, and for the people who were incarcerated there.
And to no surprise, officers' use of force shot up as well. Almost 30% more, making it an all-time high for the jail. Much of this use of force was against adolescent detainees, with 571 cases recorded in 2019. And when the officers weren't abusing the younger inmates, they found other ways to keep them in check.
I started learning about the program. We always knew what correctional officers were the one that was upkeeping the program. They could say, well, we couldn't put our hands on the youth, so we needed to figure out how to keep them under control.
Despite claims by the New York City Department of Correction that the idea of the program was fabricated, it became clear that officers were giving some inmates leniency to keep other juveniles in check. Some even got rewarded.
He'll get more calls to call his family, right? Because he'll take calls from people. If you're not in that power rank, that means you're not having cereal, or you're not even having a muffin. their commissaries get taken away, their sneakers get taken away.
Of course, not all staff are involved in this. While some use excessive force and others try to get inmates to do their dirty work, the jail also had another problem with its policies being abused.
Once we started ramping up the investigations
Deputy.
into the sick leave abuse, they just stopped calling completely and they started going AWOL. So there were patterns of sick leave abuse and just not showing up to work.
Correction officers are given unlimited sick leave as part of a union. In the past, those caught abusing this privilege faced little consequence. And in 2021, it was reported that around a third of correctional officers at Rikers went on sick leave. In 2019, there was an average of 645 absences without leave per month. In 2021, that number jumped more than 200% to over 2,300 per month. This led to the jail being understaffed, putting both inmates and staff at risk.
A
We
ghost
as a
jail.
society should be
Basically,
thinking more
inmates
about
are
what we can do in prisons. Again, for everybody in there, right? It's like prison
running
conditions
themselves
suck.
at this point.
People don't want to work
They're
there.
running themselves
If we
into
can improve
jail.
conditions, I think we'll get more people who want to work inside prisons and jails, and getting a bigger applicant pool is only a positive thing, right? Like, I think you can get better applicants, more committed applicants. If they're enjoying their job more, they have higher job satisfaction. Research shows that they'll have better interactions with incarcerated people. Having incarcerated people with staff who are better is better for them. Like, it's a mutually beneficial thing.
Violence increased, and naturally, so did the jail's death toll. In total, 15 inmates died either by suicide, overdose, or from COVID-19. It's also important to note that all were men of color. And as shocking as that statistic is, what's even more startling is that 90% of inmates at Rikers are black or brown, highlighting an issue within the justice system beyond the walls of Rikers. The death toll in 2022 was
90%.
even higher at 19 inmates. Again, a handful of
Dang.
confirmed or suspected suicides. Regardless of whether it was due to a mental health disorder
Who's
or
the
the abuse
10%?
inmates faced at the
The
hands
chef?
of officers, this became a clear
Kitchen
pattern,
staff?
and the
Come
pressure
on.
to close Rikers for good was mounting.
The New York City Council has just approved the controversial plan to close Rikers. 4 new, smaller jails will now be built in the boroughs. It is a move that has sparked a lot of protest.
As of 2025, their plans to build the 4 smaller jails were behind schedule. 2 are now expected to be completed in 2031 and another in 2032. To add insult to injury,
32,
the 4 planned facilities are
People,
expected to collect.
I swear to God, they're trolling at this point. NY City's officials are literally trolling at this point. Literally. Come on, it's gonna take you what? Almost 7 years? 6-7 years? To build a small jail? Come on. 2032.
Are
You're
expected
building
to
a-
collectively hold just over 4,000 beds.
I know, airfield.
Which is a problem given that Rikers Island, as of 2025, has just over 7,000 inmates.
God
In the
damn,
meantime,
7,000
U.S.
inmates.
District Judge Laura Taylor Swain ruled in May 2025 that she would take control of Rikers and appoint an independent official to run the operations. From hiring
Okay,
staff
least
to
better.
revising the jail's rules and disciplining employees, the hope is that real change will occur within.
Hopefully.
Despite a law requiring Rikers to close its gates
'Cause
officially in 2027,
At this point, the city is just trolling. The city is literally just trolling at this point. 2032. It's gonna take them almost 7 years to build what? 4 small jails. Not even a big one. Smaller ones. Like really small ones. Some bullshit. Give that job to 10 Mexicans. They would do it in 10 days. Come on now. Okay, it was district judge.
In the meantime, U.S.
I wanna
District
focus on
Judge
something.
Laura Taylor Swain ruled in May 2025 that she would take
Mhm.
control of Rikers
Good.
and appoint an independent official to run the operations.
Keeps corruption
From
in
hiring
check.
staff to revising the jail's rules and disciplining employees, the hope is that real change will occur within. Despite a law requiring Rikers to close its gates officially in 2027, Jacques Giha, New York City's budget director, went on record saying that
Budget
it will not
director.
happen.
Well-
Some believe it will. I guess that's to be determined. Ultimately, Rikers Island isn't about reform, but rather figuring out how to stay alive in a system that was built to destroy you.
The Black Lives Matter and some other movements that happened in the mid-2010s, I think, made people more generally aware of like criminal justice issues. And when we talk about like uses of force and like, you know, these high-profile incidents that happen with police officers, and then we see it day in and day out in correctional facilities,
Sure.
and it's barely a
The
blip
media
on the
doesn't
media's
give
radar.
a
Right?
flippin'.
I think it's something important that we should all be aware of, understanding the issues that are happening
Shit.
there.
About
and
it.
I think collectively, if we give it the same kind of attention that we did to other parts of the justice system, we could see some positive change that makes everyone's lives better.
If Rikers is survival of the fittest, ADX Florence is survival of the mind. 23 hours a day in solitary, no human contact. It's home to the worst of the worst, like El Chapo. We did a video highlighting just how bad life is in
I'll
ADX,
definitely be
so
reacting
check
to
that
that
out.
as well.
We'll see you next time.
El Chapo's
Survive.
living hell. I'll definitely be reacting to that. Anyway, shout out to my man, How to Survive. This was eye-opening. People need to watch and react and comment on what's happening in the state's correctional system, because it's becoming more and more it's becoming worse. Honestly, it's worrying. A shout out to Tommy G for the Atlanta jail video. That definitely did open some people's eyes to the issue. Good video, man.